Yo.
What's up, brother?
What's up, man?
How you been? How you been?
Good. Can't complain. How you been?
Pretty good, pretty good. We got our I got the TikTok stream going today. We got our Instagram going
Sweet.
from everyone to another Love Talk podcast. Me, Jamar, my friend Kelly here
Yeah.
for some good conversation.
Yes, sir.
What you been up to out there?
How much, man? Been doing a bunch of, call it plant heists lately. I've been going in public places and just seeing like plants and planterns in like shopping centers or anywhere public. And just, I bring a little water, like a mini cooler thing with me. And I
Yeah.
just be clipping plants that I like and putting them in bags.
When you said plant heist, I was like, what?
Yeah, I've been having Claude help me. I'll take like a photo of a plant and be like, "What is this plant? How do I clip it?" And it's like, "Damn, slow!" It told me today, "It goes slow down. You're on a plant safari, huh?"
That's funny. Hey, you know, there's a plant supposedly. I guess this is in like Thai or Laos culture where I guess it's called like the $1 million plant. They call it the $1 million plant. But if you supposedly if you clip a piece of it and you take it, like let's say someone has it and you take it, it's good luck for money for it. That's their
Oh,
belief.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. A friend of your guys's or a mutual friend has this tree somewhere that we're trying to get.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That would be cool. We got a money tree, but I'm looking for that $1 million money tree. That'd be cool.
The $1 million money tree.
Put some $100 bills in the soil.
That's funny.
Yeah, man. Been last time we talked when we went. Well, this was like 3 weeks ago now that we talked about the whole Julia Mossbridge thing and her book of Have a Nice Disclosure, and then she's talking about different psychedelic experiences and things like that. I told you about it last week. We didn't do the podcast then, but I think it'd be cool to talk about now just because it's newer news. The beginning of this month, one of like basically the top psychedelic researchers alive from Imperial College came out. He co-authored it, but they published this, basically peer-reviewed journal that like it's a first of its kind where it's called Computational Spirits. It's a neuroscientific account of psychedelic entity encounters, which is crazy because it's kind of showing us that modern science and say researchers are coming to par to basically what shamans understood like years and years ago, 100 plus years ago. So pretty crazy that came out and that it's the first peer reviewed that's acknowledging what happens to your brain on DMT and why do so many people across not even just modern times but in history you see the same accounts of these like machine elves and certain entities that everyone runs into. So it's like, what is that the veil's thinned enough that everyone's kind of encountering these same beings. So
So,
just
so the whole study is they're studying people's accounts of this and like trying to get like scientific data as to like why are people going into DMT and saying they're seeing the same type of beings and
right.
kind of experiences they're
So
having.
they're like the first group who put together a computational model so where they can actually map out what happens when your brain renders autonomous entities under DMT. So like their conclusion is that the brain models agency in a way that creates the experience of separate beings. So when people are, knee deep in their DMT experience, what's weird is they're encountering the same kind of phenomenon. So that's where I think, even tied back to our talks, we'll call it simulation stuff, call it whatever, but I think it's just cool to see that science is now I guess open-minded enough to acknowledge, hey, there's something deeper to these psychedelic experiences and it's not just like a drug. It's kind of a thing of a veil. It's allowing access to people to information that otherwise they wouldn't have.
Now, do they have like a theory about what these experiences derive from, or like are they saying that it's just the brain that's just rendering it, or are they saying like maybe it's some kind of like other dimensional entity? Do they get into any of that, or like?
What I saw on it is that they're basically not, they don't say that the entities aren't real. They're just saying that there's something here to worth studying, which is that the brain has the capacity to interfere with whatever's actually there, you know? And like Terrence McKenna was the guy, I think, who coined the machine elves, which was his term for those like hyper intelligent, geometric, kind of playful, which hence why they call them elves. But that these people keep encountering these same entities, you know, a lot of the time the experience is the same. They look the same. You know, you look at artists like Alex Gray. Joe Rogan just had, I can't remember this guy's name, but he just had him on his podcast a couple weeks ago. And he was talking about how what Alex did that was so cool is he's one of the very few, you know, call them visionary artists that can pretty closely resemble in his art what people are seeing in their DMT experiences. So, like the same entities that he draws with the geometric patterns and kind of like his style is a very close representation to what people account. You know, even Joe says in the podcast, they pull up one of Alex Gray's artworks and he's like, I've seen that guy, you know?
Oh,
So
man.
it's just weird that like everyone's kind of seeing the same
Dang.
things. Is
Like
what I think the trippy part.
that's interesting. I've heard I think it was a study that they were doing, some other study. It may be linked to the same study though that you're talking about, is where what they were finding interesting is that um you can actually, or at least there are some accounts of this happening where you can actually talk to one of the entities in the DMT experience,
Mm,
ask them information about someone or something in the real world that you wouldn't have knowledge of. And
right.
then actually they can convey that information, and then when you're done with the trip and you come back, you can confirm sometimes that that information was correct, but that you did not know it, from anything in the real world. You got it from a DMT entity.
Oh,
So yeah, so that's one of the interesting things. It's like if it is like just the mind rendering of this molecule and creating, just the inner mind experience, then you would think that you wouldn't technically be able to get like outside information about other people in the real world, and that information be then accurate information.
100%. I think that piece, along with just the fact that it seems to be the same cast. It's like sometimes it's these machine elves, sometimes it's these bigger entities. You know, there's depictions of them online. But I think that's what's interesting is the same people. You know, this guy in the 1950s described his DMT trip living in Manhattan, links up to the same, what's the chick's name? Maria Sabina. You've ever heard her whole mushroom ceremonies, notorious stuff. But even down to like the ancient Egyptian, the Book of the Dead describes some of these same entities that modern people now are referring to. And I think this is what got scientists' eyes. They're like, okay, there's something here. Obviously, if it's the same cast of people, it kind of eliminates the theory that it's just a hallucination. Because if it
Yeah,
was just a hallucination, everyone would be having different encounters, different information, you know. But the fact that there's some string of consistency through it makes you wonder, you know. To me, I think it's as simple as what I would imagine is like it's what's already here. It's just what in our conscious, call it sober minds, don't experience. But as soon as that veil is lifted, everyone's kind of experiencing the same thing, which is already here, you
yeah,
know? So it's like in our current state, we don't see any of these things. We don't experience machine elves in a call it sober state. But the fact that everyone has the same experiences means that that's a reality that's coexisting with ours at all times.
yeah. Well, I know I've heard like counter theories to this where it's like it's not like people's explanation to kind of like explain it away. It's like, oh well, it's just the molecule itself creates a certain geometry in the human brain, which people interpret as this. But I think there are so many accounts of like other things, like people getting information from these entities that they wouldn't have had, in the gotten it from the this other world, this other dimension, but it's actually relative to the real world.
Right.
I think things like that shows there may be something a little bit more to it then.
Big time. I think these Mago, they're calling the Mago papers that came out recently, they're kind of accidentally or indirectly acknowledging the simulation theory, because what they're saying is that the brain models agency, which means the brain's rendering basically NPCs from another layer, and that people are seeing the same things. So it's like they're indirectly acknowledging that, but who knows? Like, these other entities, are they developers of the game? Are they players? Are they NPCs? Whatever they are, they're coexisting here. And there's no coincidence that everyone's encountering the same cast of characters, And what's interesting is that your pineal gland naturally releases DMT, right?
Yeah.
So when you're a
And
pineal gland,
yeah,
your pineal gland's active, it releases DMT during birth and during death. So that's why when people have, insane, apocalyptic style NDEs, where they're having a near death experience and they see the light and they have all these kind of crazy phenomena happening, that's just your brain blasting DMT. So you're kind of getting it's interesting that we found the concept of ayahuasca in general, that somehow a shaman figured out two plants that grow completely separate from each other, somehow decided to combine them to create like a symbiotic effect where one allows the other one to fully open up and the other one does the same thing for the other. So if
yeah,
you took either of those plants separately, they do nothing for you. But somewhere down the line, a shaman said that the plants basically told him this,
yeah.
and somehow these plants release the same chemical that our pineal gland, which the Egyptians were obsessed with, you know, in a higher dose. So you can dose yourself with what your brain is already giving you. It's pretty
That
wild.
bro, that's insane. And it's like you think about the odds of like being able to bring these two different planets together. And even I've heard that same story too. Like they learned it from the plants themselves. Like I never would have believed stories like that, but I've had a similar experience. I think I told you about it one time before, where I had a lion's mane supplement, like plant supplement, and I was just like playing around with it, and I was just like, I wasn't even like taking
Oh,
it.
you told us. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, I was taking it for like a couple of days, and I was like, man, because I didn't know the brand or anything like that, and I was just like, oh man, this is probably like some watered down supplement. I doubt this even works. Because I was taking it for like brain health, concentration, focus, like and stuff like that, and then I was just saying this while I was holding it, and all of a sudden I got this like word like beamed into my brain, and I was just like, and I started saying it in my head, and I was like, and I thought to myself, I do not recognize this word. Like, this word is not part of my vocabulary. I've never used this word before, and I have no idea what it means.
That's crazy.
And so I was just like, and the word was myopic. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, what is that? I literally went on my phone and I Googled it, and I was like, myopic. And it's like short-sighted person. And I was like,
That's so crazy.
this planet just called me short-sighted. I was like, what the? I was like, I've never in my life used that word, never knew what it meant. And it just beamed into my head all of a sudden. And I was just like, while I was holding the supplement, and I was just like, okay, these plants do talk. I was like, they do
That's
talk.
crazy.
So I believe that story. It's like, because I think when you are in touch with nature and you are really connected in that way, like the earth speaks to you, the plants speak to you. Like I've heard of people like curing themselves of illnesses just from plants and eating from the earth.
It's pretty interesting. I think it takes, like you said, like if you're the right vessel and you're in the right place at the right time, I think you can pick these messages up, and it's cool to see that modern science is finally starting to at least acknowledge this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like we're surrounded by this phenomenon, and for the longest time, science wouldn't touch any of it. So it's cool to see spirituality and science kind of come to terms with each other, as and you and I know and talk about, is they're one and the same. Like technology and nature, spirituality and science. Like we're all kind of talking about the same thing. And I think what's cool is we just had that podcast about Julia Mossbridge. And I think what this paper confirms is kind of it's catching up to what she's saying, because her whole concept was like we live in an informational substrate, and these entities are kind of like a cast of characters that live here. Same thing with Maria Sabina and her mushroom ceremonies. She says, there's worlds around us, there's worlds that are far away, and then there's the invisible world that kind of coexists with us here that we're just like ignorant to. So I think what's cool with some of these plant medicines, think what you want about ayahuasca and the plant of the dead and all these things. It's just interesting that it's kind of a key to be able to see the nature of reality for what it is that like our normal consciousness would never pick up.
Yeah, like you think about it, it's weird to me. I think that science has been so skeptical of it for so long,
Yeah.
where it's been pushed to the outreaches of science. And I've always wondered, like, that seems like one of the first places, like we go into space and all these other places to explore all these different things, but it's like a lot of the exploration is right here. Like it's so easily accessible, right here on Earth. Like other dimensions and all these, even if it's just dimensions of the mind. I mean, I think it's still, it's a lot of things to be learned from it.
Big time. I mean, even as they say, like we know more about our solar system than we do our own oceans. Tells you a lot. And I think in a sense, it's almost like a macrocosm example of what most people do. Is like everyone has a tendency to look outward towards things, and I think through meditation and all these other practices, you start learning that like most of the answers and the keys are already in you. You're just having to do this introspective look instead of you're looking out there, it's mostly distractions. You're trying to find answers in all the different wrong places, and most of the time it just comes from a deeper understanding of yourself, which I think is cool that everyone kind of innately has that in them. And then on top of that, what's interesting with all of these DMT experiences or mushroom, any psychedelic experiences, all of these encounters, when you look up online, they all share the same base message, which is literally just love. It's like love is the only answer, love is the strongest energy. Everything kind of comes down to that same, like, call it cliche hippie message, which is like we are all one, and love is the one way that we can kind of move forward in life. So it sounds cliche, but I think that's, it was the inspiration for a lot of ancient monuments back then, these civilizations that built these insane monuments and cathedrals, and you really put their art on display. Q Love Tower, I think that's what we need is people will criticize it, and we hear it from our own friends and family of what is another monument, representative to love going to do for the planet. And I think it's bigger than that, in the sense that like we've
Um,
always done this isn't a new thing, you know what I mean?
I mean, you could even take it, even deeper into the conversation that we're having about, like everything. Like there is so much that we don't see. Like DMT really shows us that. I think that wherever you look, you see new things, new light. I think even what with DMT and with other things, it shows me that even our thoughts and the energies and the things that we have, within our mind, it's not just within our mind. It actually does affect the world. So I think like even a monument like the Love Tower, like when you create for a certain intention, I think that has a certain energy or effect into the world.
100%. I think it's like the simplest thing, and every time we talk about it, it's like we have a limitation of our own human language and our what our English describes. People hear the word love, and you're immediately bombarded with your own understanding of what love is, but you don't really see that it's like the most powerful energy source that's kind of holding it's the glue to everything. It's the substrate that we all swim in, that there's no coincidence that time after time, whether it's ayahuasca or an NDE or DMT or mushrooms, when people can thin the veil enough, they encounter these entities, and 99% of the time, these entities are just trying to tell them one message, which is that, you
Yeah.
know, you're all a part of the same thing. Love each other. It's like
Yeah.
we should probably take the hint.
That's true. That's true. I mean, even if you look at it, because I think, don't you think to a certain aspect though, it's like I think because the world is dualistic, like it has a dualistic nature. So there's always, as there are things that are bringing us to the message of like love, unity, then there's just natural things in the world that also bring us the opposite. It's like
Sure.
separation and distrust or hatred or all these other things that bring separation, not love or unity.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing. We're always trying to find our way back to it almost.
For sure. I think it's a part of the game, you could argue, right? Because it's like you have to have, and you've talked about this before, call it, yin and yang. Like, in order for us to move, we need an opposing force.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why in every movie or book you read, it's the hero's journey. It's good fighting evil. It's love versus hate. It's always the same dualistic patterns. Like our brains are routed that way.
Have you ever have you ever watched a movie where like nothing was happening and you were just waiting for something to happen?
Yeah.
It's because like the nature of like the human brain, it's like there has to be a resistance. There has to be some
Right.
kind of force. I think that speaks to the nature of like our minds as human beings, actually.
Yeah, we're always kind of looking for that. And good example, I'll tell you this. I took your movie recommendation from the other night and watched Fried Green Tomatoes.
Oh, did you?
Dude, I'll be honest, I got like 30 minutes in and I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I just don't see this going anywhere. I was like, I'll save it for another time. But I even asked AI, I was like, is there a deeper significance in this movie? And it was like, it is, it's love focused. It's like, it's not like a triumphant, like a traditional movie where it's a big play. So I think speaking to exactly what you're saying, it was like my brain is watching this movie and I'm like, bro, this is so slow. I'm like, this is. I was like, what are we watching right now? So I just good example of the human brain just being like, there's not enough action going on here.
There's nothing happening here.
It's just like, all right. But
You know.
I would like to rewatch it. I just need to curate my own internal patience because I'm watching it. I'm like, what's gonna happen, dude? Is someone gonna die? Or
Hey, dude, I once watched this movie. I don't know. It was probably like some independent film or something like that. And there was this guy, and he was just like, it was a black guy, and he was like with a group of like white friends, right?
uh,
But he barely knew them, and so they're like out in some forest cabin thing or something like that. And the whole movie, like I'm just sitting there like, oh, something's gonna happen to this dude. He's done so, bro. Like he's done so. And it leaves you on the edge the entire movie, and literally nothing happens.
what?
It's like- but
That
you
is
know,
shocking.
you know what I thought about it? I was like, bro, that's actually a really good movie because it's like the whole time it's leaving you thinking like, man, this guy, he's done so, bro. It's over for him. It's like,
I mean, it's usually the case, and for whatever reason with Hollywood, it's like you're always a cast of characters, and there's the one black guy, and you're like, all right, he's either going to get cut or he's going to come out as being a homosexual. You're like, why does Hollywood tend to do that? and it's not like it's exclusively just black people, but some
Yeah,
themes in movies you watch and you can't help but go like, oh, this is predictable. You know what's going to happen.
yeah.
By the camera
But
angle and all that.
I wonder though, because I've noticed certain patterns in movies that I really think like cannot be just random sometimes. It's like it cannot be random. But I always wonder, it's like, man, like is the directors like intentionally putting this stuff in the movies or what is going on?
It's funny you mentioned that because I was talking about this like about a week or two ago. Is the concept of when you hear like whether it's a movie director or say even like an artist doing a painting or a musical artist, anyone that's kind of tapping into that creative element, the common theme you hear across all of these artists is that they're kind of driven by something. So it's almost like what we know is even call it drivers is like when a message needs to come through, they'll find the right channel. And a lot of these people, they'd be like, "Oh, what inspired you to make, Star Wars?" And they'll be like, it was an idea, and it feels like it wasn't even their idea. Spielberg said this. A bunch of prominent artists come out and say the same thing. They're like, "I don't know, it just came into me, and I'm just the medium."
You're you're on the same thing I'm on. I really believe that too. It's like I was just talking to someone about this like a week ago, and we were talking about how there's accounts of people inventing the same thing at the same time throughout history in different
Right.
parts of the world. And what it seems to kind of be pointing at is like when in the human consciousness, when there is an idea or something that's supposed to come through, like it comes through to multiple people and it comes through at a time that it's supposed to, but it's whoever is able to actually receive it and actually take that idea and bring it to being in the world.
Right.
It's weird how many accounts that's happened where people invent literally the same thing at the same time in different parts of the world.
Dude, I heard on that note, this was actually again on a Joe Rogan thing. He was talking with someone, this was like a couple months back. I heard that apparently when you remember the show Dennis the Menace?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude,
So
the cartoon?
the
I used to watch
cartoons,
this on
when
the TV.
Dennis the Menace came out in the United States, at the exact same time, someone in I want to say the UK came out with the identical and even the show name was close. It wasn't Dennis the Menace, but it was, you know, Tyson the Tyrant or something like that. I can't remember what the name was, but the face of the character looked the same. The plot was the same. And they came out simultaneously. And then they found out afterwards that those two people who wrote those shows, they weren't in communication with each other at all. So it was just like one of those weird phenomenons in history where it's like Dennis the Menace came out at the same time as the UK's version, which was identical, but they didn't talk to each other at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, something like that. Something even as insignificant as a cartoon show. Like it's weird when you start to consider the collective consciousness idea and that like ideas aren't really anyone's. It's like something you're accessing.
Yeah. So you think about it like this, going back to the movies, is if, like I relate it, like I believe like as above, so below. Like so you can just like you can look in hermetics, like you can learn from like the microscopic or the macro to learn from each other. It's like you can see if you want to know about another world, you can just look at this world and you can derive certain things about other.
Right.
And so what I see is like I look at the human body, like how it works. Like there's an overmind in the body, like the conscious mind. But then there's levels of minds, and then you have the cells, you have different parts of the mind. But like there is a like an operating system that we have like in the brain. And so I think like the universe works like this too. And so I think that in the like with movies and things like that, like we're always getting like similar messages and all these inventions that are coming at the same time. I think it is like the collective consciousness kind of communicating things. Because if you think about it, like I've always told people this is like humans have individual destinies, but the world also has a world destiny.
Right.
And so you think that you're operating outside of this, but you're not. Like it's actually like you may feel like you operate as an individual person, but you don't. You operate in a collective. So if
Right.
you look at movies, because this has always been my theory, because I've always wondered like why do we always get these similar messages? And I know not all these directors are communicating. I'm sure maybe they have some kind of like I wouldn't doubt they have some secret group or something like that, or
Something.
different. I think different art forms they have, certain things within their genre that are just elements in how they communicate in movies.
Right. Certain styles.
Yeah, I'm sure there's that, but there's some stuff that it's just like, bro, like how is this repeating in all these different movies? And so what I really think it is I think it is like some kind of super consciousness that is communicating through the platform of movies to move the direction of the populace to certain things.
Right. It's a trip, dude, because literally what you're just saying, I just saw this the other day. I got to show you it. I haven't done this on the podcast with you, but look at this. This is what a human brain cell looks like, right?
Hmm,
This is literally micrometers across.
interesting. What? That's
Billions
crazy.
is the universe, and that's billions of light years across.
What? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Right. You have the same patterns that emerge on a brain cell level, even down to a universal level.
Yeah, I've seen this image before. That's kind of crazy.
It's like exactly what you're saying is everything, nothing exists on its own. It's like everything was kind of built from the same code, obviously, as we know, is like it's all extrapolated outwards in the same way. The same concept of how our brains work is how the universe works. The things that make up us up are the same things that make up our solar system. It's like a trying to grasp that is so weird to understand that like you're what Carl Sagan said is like you're just we are starry stuff, like we're galaxies are within us, our internal systems of how we work from our digestion to our heart and health, everything is similar to how whole universes run. It's like
Yeah,
there's no coincidence that everything is kind of a fractal pattern of something else. When we think of what infinity is, it's almost like a Russian doll. It's just a box in a box in a box, a simulation in a simulation in a simulation in a, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's all part of each other. It's all connected. It's
All
crazy.
stemming from the same thing.
Yeah, I like to dive into that sometimes. Like even I think even within our own minds, it's like a lot of Carl Jung stuff is about how there's even like collective um like archetypes and like thought forms like within the human mind that is a part of the collective like human mind. And so he talks about how there's certain archetypes that have like universal meaning to like all people. Like when we see it on a at least on the subconscious level, where it means something to us, like oh this is this communicating to me or something like that. I was like,
Right. I mean, perfect note. Carl Jung's famous saying is until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life and you will call it fate.
yeah, yeah,
So it's like that whole component to even ourselves of like what our subconscious is, what we're like not conscious about is what we think kind of drives us. But as soon as you put your attention on it and start like, curating it, you realize, it's all kind of stemming from the same thing.
yeah, yeah. Like I think it even goes to the extent like what you were talking about earlier, like the DMT beings, like are they alive? Are they conscious? Like to a degree, I think like maybe they are. Maybe all things are conscious. I think even your thoughts to a certain extent. I know in like energy work, like we talk about how there's certain energy practice where they talk about thought forms, for example.
Right.
Thought forms, thought forms within the mind sometimes they also have a life of their own. Like they want to persist. Like certain thought forms in your mind, also it's like the microcosm of you. Just like you want to live, certain thought forms or belief patterns in you also want to persist.
Oh yeah.
We don't want you to just end them and delete them because
Right.
that'll be the equivalent of death. Like you
That's
think about it like that, it's like even your thoughts have a life of their own.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
It's true. I mean, you see it on like the extreme level when like a group of people create a collective thought form about something. You know, the power that that can wield is crazy because it's almost like a living entity. It's almost like what yeah, you taught me this concept of the Edgars,
yeah,
right?
Eggers, yeah.
Those are crazy. That whole idea is like mind blowing when you realize, yeah, like everything kind of has its own level of life to it. Nothing's really dormant ever.
Yeah, yeah. It's a trip.
That's pretty wild, man. I love the Carl Jung quotes. If you ever just go through one of those pages,
Yeah.
he's got so many good quotes. The one that always stuck with me, and I'll butcher how he says it, but it's like the way to learn about the darkness in yourself is by learning about the darkness of others, kind of thing. And he says a similar one too. Is like typically the things we hate most about ourselves is what we hate about other people. So now every time I see someone with an unfavorable characteristic, and I'm like, man, this guy pisses me off. He's so lazy. You know, he's always doing this thing. I'll take a second look at it and be like, damn, I hate him because I hate that part of me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, like you recognize things that you don't like because you recognize them in you on a certain level.
Yeah, it starts from somewhere. So it goes both ways. It's like to learn more about other people, you need to learn about yourself. You know, if you want to love your partner more, you need to love yourself more. So it's like everything kind of has that trade off. It's the what you said, the dualistic nature of everything. It's got to be in balance.
You know, back to Carl Jung, he also has a method. I forgot what he calls it, but it's like a it's literally just using the imagination to explore the mind. Where it's literally, I think the example that I've seen where it's like you're using the imagination to move through like the conscious mind. So for example, you would visualize like going down like steps into the conscious mind, and then like you would meet certain characters, and then certain characters that you meet, and it's literally just live imagination. Like
Uh,
you're using your imagination to move through your mind. But certain characters that you'll meet will represent certain aspects of the mind. And then you can have conversations, ask them questions, and so this is a method that he uses.
oh,
And
that's interesting.
I
Have you tried
always
it?
thought that was interesting. I was like, huh.
Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, I've tried it, and it's interesting actually.
Oh man, I gotta try that. That
And
seems pretty crazy.
he calls it active imagination or something like that.
Yeah. I get like snippets of this guy's quotes, and I think of him something along the lines of like, the bravest thing anyone can do is basically face their own soul. Because when you think about it, most people will do anything but face that. You know what I mean? And that's like kind of what the distractions are. Something like we're saying is like everyone tends to look outwards for information, thinking that that will bring fulfillment into their life. They look out, they take from out and bring within, and they don't realize that most of the things that will give them what they're looking for are coming from within them. So,
Yeah,
but that's the scary part, right? Is like being able to, what does he call it, the dark night of the soul or something like that. There's
yeah,
like or shadow integration. That whole concept of like, you know, the only way a tree can reach its branches to heaven is if its roots is bound in hell. So it's like understanding the darkest components of yourself will lead you to kind of be a more whole human.
yeah.
A
He
lot of
calls that individuation, where it's like the
that's it.
unification of the conscious and the subconscious mind,
Right.
or the dark and the light. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
crazy one, man. I remember listening to you know, it was one of those YouTube videos, kind of probably AI put together, but it was taking his quotes. And that was the word I was looking for, was the individuation. One of the things he talked about in this video that I was learning on was how when you start developing and call it what he said, individualizing, like recognizing your self-worth from others, and you're no longer looking for approval or acceptance from other people. You've kind of integrated into yourself. The same patterns tend to emerge, is that the people closest to you typically won't support you. They tend to look at you and go, "Oh man, what happened to the old Jamar? He used to be like this guy, you're not the same guy anymore," or whatever. And I started experiencing that from some close friends and family. And I'm like, damn, dude, it's kind of depressing when you go onto that path, because for some people it like cuts a cord with them where they're like, "What happened to you? You're not the same guy." And it's like, well, yeah, because you got something from that old version of me, and now I realize like I don't need you, you
Yeah.
know? So there's a weird separation that takes place with close friends and family once you go through the phase of like individualizing.
You know what that also reminds me of too? It also reminds me of that quote from The Matrix where it's uh, like the people who are plugged into the Matrix will also fight like on its behalf.
Right.
Like if you're going through a certain process and you're evolving, and it's almost like a system response. Sometimes with people around you to cause a reaction to try to push you back into alignment with what they kind of seen in you before.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. It's like people become agents to the system and
Yeah,
they don't even realize it, or you're kind of defending it. They want to hold you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, why you not the same as you used to be? You changed, bro.
It's crazy when you look at the kind of the game in general. And I was talking about this with a friend recently of like, there's so many, call it booby traps in the game of things that'll keep you sticky, whether it's like overconsumption of food, overconsumption of substances, alcohol, whatever. Like, there's plenty of things in the game to keep you a part of it, and I think addiction in some ways will do that. It could be anything from hard drugs to bread or sugar or whatever, like
Yeah,
things that keep you locked into your mode of being. It's
yeah,
interesting. Once you can kind of shed that, it's like the first step you always hear in these spiritual circles. People say, ego death and whatever. Like you kind of shed yourself, and even with like New Earth's teaching, um, of being able to shed the ego is one thing, but I think the next layer to that too is taking a good hard look at yourself and say, call it your shadow self, of like the things that drive you that are almost subconscious, you know?
mm,
Like what are your desires and wants, and how many of those things are like necessary for you to, further yourself in life? If you have an addiction to something, or you have, some perversion for whatever. There's so many inherent booby traps set up in the game that they're almost here to keep you in it.
yeah. You
And
think, going off of what you were saying earlier, is where like the last thing people do is like explore themselves. Is I remember watching this episode of Westworld where they were saying, um, and I also think I heard something similar to this in psychiatry, but or psychology, where it's like, and they were saying in the episode, one of the AIs was speaking to one of the characters and saying, like, how did they create like authentic replicas of certain like human personalities, and then creating they basically like Westworld AI version of that, like a perfect replica of that person, and how would it have the same personality and stuff like this. And so the AI was telling them, like, we used to interview the humans to actually like understand why they made certain decisions, to really get into their heads and see like why they did certain things. And then it said eventually the AIs concluded this in the show. It's that the AIs concluded at a certain point that they couldn't rely on human recounting of why they did certain things. Because
mhm,
the truth is that they understood is humans don't know why they do anything.
what they do.
Like,
Yeah.
well, assign a conscious reason to it. Like, oh, well, I broke up with this person because this, and that. when really like going back into like the Carl Jung stuff, it's like a lot of it is like subconscious stuff that you have no conscious understanding of or
Right.
clue is operating you. And so like I thought about that when I heard that, I was like, man, that just sounds so interesting. I wouldn't doubt in the future something like that happens where AIs are just like, nah, like we're not gonna rely on humans to tell us this anymore because it's not as accurate as, as just observing it and understanding it ourselves.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. There's
Yeah.
a huge gap there of what people consider fate and what drives their lives and all of these things is like sometimes you can let your hand off the wheel, but even when you do that, like our human nature is like you're driven by something else that's not even conscious to you, you know, and you can see it, it's apparent in your dreams. You know, when you have like weird dreams and you want to really, you know, Jung talk about the importance of dreams too, because if you really took a chance and wrote down your dreams and tried to analyze them and do what you could, it would give you a glimpse into your subconscious. And you can realize, you know, there's modalities and stuff like that that you showed me that seem fascinating that you can impact your subconscious mind. I think is a really smart tactic. Or like our good friend of ours, Renee, was mentioning how there's certain things you can do that embed, like when you whisper things, they're more in your subconscious. You know what I mean? Things like that, to where you can influence the whole other half of your consciousness that most people take for granted, or I guess rather don't even look at, that
Yeah.
kind of drive everyone's life. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Like how often are we operating on programs where it's like they're all subconscious, whether it's stuff that's been passed from our ancestry or traumas that we had or all these different things, like, and we're operating on it, but we don't even consciously really even understand it.
Yeah, that's a trip.
It's true, true, true.
I love it, man. I love our conversations. How we'll just go off into everything.
And
starts
everything.
starts with one topic and then we end up in Carl Jung.
Definitely, definitely. Another good conversation, brother.
Yes, sir.
Sunday. Thank you guys for joining on Instagram and TikTok as well. Follow us. We always do these live podcasts on Sunday. We do some on Wednesdays as well in the afternoon. Um, follow the link in the bio. Follow us. Thank you guys for joining us once again. Thank you for joining, Kelly.
Sure. Appreciate you, man.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you
Much love. Take
guys.
care, everyone. Peace, Shema.
Peace.